It's mute. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the first time that we are going live with a face-to-face discussion. So I'm super excited about it. And I can see comments here in my screen. The screen is very difficult to see. So I'll try to, whenever I can, have a look. And if there's any question, I'll make sure that I will ask from the panelists. We have an interesting discussion today about AI and the applications of AI in sports. And we're going to go into details and maybe one or two specific use cases. So make sure that you stay with us till the end because this is going to be an awesome discussion. I have two great panelists, experts with a very deep experience in business and technology. So I'm going to just quickly start introducing Peter. Thanks for joining us. 𝐒𝐲𝐬, great to have you here. So Peter, you have extensive background in technology and software engineering space. Can you please start introducing yourself?
Yes, of course. So thank you, everybody, for joining and watching. My name is Peter Bergen. I'm the CEO of 𝐔𝐳𝐥𝐽𝐬. Essentially, since the creation of ChatGPT and a lot of these large language models becoming popular, I've essentially worked across sports and the integration of large language models within sports. So whether that's sports media, analysis, going mostly or to begin across basketball and then especially working with Clive in golf. So now we've just recently launched 𝐔𝐳𝐥𝐽𝐬 and we're continually building new products and features to be able to allow golfers specifically to interact with language models in golf to create better experiences. But that's quickly a little bit of my background, and I guess.
All right, Clive. Would love to hear about you as well. I mean, apart from best golf player in the world, what do you do, and what is your background experience specifically in the business space?
Yep. So my name is Clive Mayhew. I'm the principal investor to 𝐔𝐳𝐴𝐼. I'm also really big in sports.ai. So I believe that this truly is going to be everything. And we're going to talk about that as we go on. My background is I've been in the tech for quite a long time, as you can tell. I'm the oldest one here. So I originally started 25, 30 years ago. I was one of the original employees of Netscape right at the beginning. So I went through the dot-com boom. I've traveled and worked to most countries around the world with IT tech. The last 10 years, I've been in Australia as a tech investor, and I've built and sold some quite successful tech companies here. Last 3 years, I really focused on golf and sports. So I've been investing in the golf and sports space. This investment, 𝐔𝐳𝐴𝐼, started during COVID. So it's so interesting. My golf fascination really started from a tech perspective. I was locked up in Sydney, Australia. I don't know where everyone around the world, whether you got locked up, but I was literally, we could not go outside of our house within 5 kilometers for about 6 months. So I was very lucky because I had my own little putting green and a bunker and a simulator, right? So I started literally during COVID playing around, developing some golf stuff. And the first thing I came up with was this idea for a golf challenge, which was using my putting, bunker, and simulator, because that's all I had access to. So I developed a new game of golf called Golf Challenge. That was during COVID. That evolved from Golf Challenge into a golf scoring app using Web3 technology, because I was a tech entrepreneur and I liked to follow Web3. So I built this Web3 GPS scoring app following my Golf Challenge experience. And then that evolved into a golf metaverse, which I built and launched with Live Golf and Greg Norman. And out of that came this idea that this gentleman had. I met him at the South by Southwest conference a year ago. And he was an AI sports guru. And he came along and he says, Clive, let's see what we can do within golf. So I met Peter a year ago. I said, okay, let's play around with that. And we came around with this idea that golf rules in particular was a fantastic application for using AI. So he developed this wonderful golf rules data set. We released it with a guy called New Tom. You remember New Tom? So New Tom was our first ever golf AI playing assistant. And we launched it in my metaverse world. And it talked about golf rules. Quite simplistic, but actually it got the most traffic. It got the most traffic from our metaverse was going towards this golf rules guy, New Tom. So we sort of like, as it evolved, Peter got more and more excited about what was possible within the golf world and in using AI, generative AI. And we literally went all in about March, I think. And we set up a new company. We created golf.ai. We bought the brand, the domain name golf.ai. And we focused since then. And then we just launched literally a week ago, the actual commercial website golf.ai using Rules Assistant, which we developed initially back from one of my other startups. So it's really interesting how, what happens in tech is you go in a little bit, then you go in a little bit more, then you go in a little bit more. And that's what happened. And that's the history of where we are today. And it's just been so exciting. The more I see, the more I experience AI, the closer we get to it, the more I honestly believe this is going to be the front end, the user interface for all technology in sports going forward. So in 2 to 5 years' time, you will literally be interacting with sports through these AI. We call them playing partners because it's golf. But if you look at sports, there'll be AI sports assistants who you'll just interact with about all of your passions. And sports is the greatest passion that people have in the world today. And it's typically all around live sport, right? So the live broadcasting element of sport. But if you're a golfer, it's actually you participate as well as watching the live events. Other sports like football and baseball, which we think we're going to go into soon, they also have a live component, but not so much a participation component. So we're very excited. As an investor, I'm excited. I'm putting money in. It's very early in the stage, but I think it's a great opportunity going forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Clive. It's a very extensive, background in the sports and specifically in the golf and AI world, which is very exciting. I'm also excited about the future for AI in conjunction with the sports. Specifically, AI these days is evolving from more infrastructure side to the application, to the consumer centric. And we are seeing a lot of great projects coming up in different domains. I myself am sort of involved in some of these startups and the processes, and I can see how it will evolve and change the way that we are doing things, from the way that we are doing work, and hopefully the way that people enjoy sports. But I would like to start with one question, like maybe walking back a little bit. Why do you think it is the right time for AI to help change the sports? And why do you think sports are primed for AI applications? Whoever wants to take.
Yeah, I can take that. So I think, so I think we step back. I think sports is generally about stories and connections. I think those are the two kind of North Stars that whatever we're building is kind of towards those two things. So whether those stories is in being involved in watching sports and kind of resonating with the stories that are on the screen, or the connections of playing, especially with golf. And that's one of the main reasons we chose golf initially, is the connections between friends. And within friends, there's stories, and so they're interconnected. So I think with AI, specifically in language models, and what we can do is there's so many stories to be told and connections to be found. The depth of stories that are told right now is just very on the, I don't want to say surface level, but the amount of stories that can be told is much deeper. For example, let's use a golf example. We often hear about the top players in golf, but within that, there's a bunch of stories around the cut line. So if you know golf very well, there's a huge competition to be able to make the cut. Those are stories that are very interesting to be told, and we want to be able to hear. So I think with AI specifically, what we're doing is we're kind of bridging the gap between knowledge and experience. So whether that's experience watching or experience playing, For example, knowledge in golf is, while you're on the golf course, how far to hit it, what the strategy is. There's a gap there that we want to be able to fill, where people are curious about something and we want to be at that point to be able to provide that depth of whether that's story or information. And I think before AI models and allowing this kind of interactivity, that's been needed to be searched and seeked out by human beings, where there's information and knowledge that they want, but then they have to go try and find it, which often leads to them not being able to find it. But what we can do is make that very unique to them and very personalized to them, and provide that depth at that point of discovery. And it's kind of, that's where we're sitting at, is where do people want the information? Where do they want to discover the information? And can we provide the depth that is not possible today?
I see it a little bit more as an investor, and I just think that the time is now. I mean, the way that the large language models have evolved in the last 2 years, and they've just become so easy for people to use. And people are using it right now. Majority of the usage is around your business. You know, your marketing, your sales, even just doing your business planning. It's so easy to do. So we're using these tools for business, but they're so easy as a development company to integrate to, for people to interact with sports. So it's just a natural evolution. You know, we start with the business use, and then everyone in business, their passions are sports. So they're all saying, like, can I use this technology in my personal life? And that's exactly what we think is going to happen. So today we're surrounded by, particularly in sports, we've got the big broadcast media companies broadcasting what I would say is like a one-to-many situation. What AI does is it sort of flips it and it becomes many to many. I mean, it literally is. It becomes truly interactive, and instead of a broadcast channel, it's a truly interactive channel. So you can literally go and look at all of your content, but it's not just like searching. It's beyond search. It's actually interactive experiences. And that's what we want to create in the golf space, but also going forward into other sports.
That's great. And you also mentioned about what you did with Metaverse. I wish I had the access during COVID. I was bored to death at my my home. But I think AI going to actually push that interaction even further, make it more personalized. As we know that one of the major use cases of AI, and specifically generative AI, is content generation and also a hyper-personalization. How do you think that it will affect sports in terms of making very personalized content, and also in terms of fan interactions?
Yeah, so I think inherently people want discovery. Again, this kind of comes back to something that I think is a big belief. People want to discover very interesting content around sports, around any information. So how can we bridge that gap? So right now, obviously, one of the biggest application is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is essentially just an open text box, which gets very difficult with sports, because with sports, where you go, it's difficult to determine what to type in. There's an empty text box. It becomes very difficult. Do you type in what is the latest sports news? That is a bad user experience. So we need to be able to help the user be able to discover interesting information to be able to go provide depth. So an easy example is Instagram. So while I'm scrolling on Instagram, a picture of an interesting sports fact shows up. That is me discovering that piece of information. Now, what AI can do is then allow me to discover the depth behind that. So what we need to do is enable a discovery engine. So we've coined this term AI, algorithmic discovery. It's the buzziest words we can use in three. But essentially, we need to enable that discovery and then that depth, right? Can the user essentially click on that picture to get the story behind what that picture is? Because as I mentioned before, where that discovery is right now on that Instagram picture, as a user, if I want to learn more, it gets pretty difficult after that. And as a user, I'm lazy, so I don't learn more, unless I wanted to go search for the information and search for the story and look up the articles and do all this interactive. So when you start trying to understand it in that sense, everything in a very traditional sense in sports should become interactive to allow that discovery and then depth behind it. So if you use the example of football or soccer, we see this a lot with data, and there's interactive exhibits that are shown on broadcast and stuff showing the movement of players on a field. If I want to be able, I should be able to circle two players in that moment and see the story of what happened in that moment on that field. Because there's a story behind the visual. And as human beings, we're rather visual, but I want to be able to understand the story behind that. So I think that's where we sit is the application layer is enabling that discovery, and then with AI being able to provide the depth behind it. And when you talk about personalization, one, we can personalize it to the user, the language, anything they want, but it's almost allowing that personalization through kind of your make your own adventure. And then of course the tone, the language, the voice, we can do all of that through various different modalities. And so there's multiple different points to personalization rather than just personalizing the way the output is generated. And it's more about allowing the discovery to be personalized itself.
Let me give you an example. Okay, so in 1996 I was offered a job to go run Netscape in the region, and I'll never forget 1996. It's a long time ago. A lot of people, a lot of the audience probably wouldn't even remember this, but 1996 in golf was a gentleman called Greg Norman. Now we're Australian, so we love Greg. Greg at the time was the world #1 golfer. He was winning everything. He was, I think it was like some number of shots ahead going into the last round at the Masters. Okay, I was literally in a hotel room. I'd just been offered this big job, and I was watching Greg live on the TV. So when I was like thinking, like, so can I remember exactly what happened, right? Because it's a big part of my life. So I just go to not ChatGPT. I went to golf.ai, sorry. And here, I'll just show you. I asked this question, tell me about the 1996 Masters with Greg Norman when he lost to Nick Faldo. So big moment in my life. I'd literally forgotten the details. And golf.ai came back and said this.
Clive, the 1996 Masters was quite a memorable event in golf history. Greg Norman entered the tournament with a 6-shot lead going into the final round.
So he answered that. Well, that's like you could do a search on that. But what I found interesting is I then went back and interacted with the content, and I said, tell me exactly what happened in the final round with Greg versus Nick.
In the final round of the 1996 Masters, Greg Norman started with a commanding 6-shot lead. However, he struggled from the outset, making 2 bogeys in his first 3 holes. Meanwhile, Nick Faldo began to gain momentum, playing steadily.
So that sounds pretty boring unless you're a golf geek like me. But for me, that was a huge, great memory for me. And it sort of activated a content which, literally I'd forgotten about. And it became an interactive one. Now, that gentleman who just said that is one of our characters. Let me show you the other characters. He's really boring, by the way. Let me show you some more of these more exciting ones. Hold on. We're into a different mode. It's okay. So the point is that we have multiple characters. That one was the character, which was an old Scottish man talking about it. But we have 10 different personalities who you interact with, and that's the fun of AI. Because for golf, it's not just about making the game fun, easier, and more enjoyable. And that's what AI can do with this content discovery stuff. It just takes it to a completely different level.
I love it.
Okay, well, let's just quickly show. I'm just going to show you my different personalities.
Yeah. I remember some of them when we were playing golf in Dubai. So I'm excited to see what characters we got there.
Yeah. So So here's an example. This is a good one.
G'day, mate. Let's work on that.
This is a good one. This is a guy called Ewan Porter, who actually is he is a commentator on the LPGA tour. He's an actual person. Let me just play Ewan again.
G'day, mate. Let's work on that swing.
He's an Aussie. This is Jasmine.
Time to level up your game, eh? Let's make it happen.
Jasmine is a Kiwi.
Time to level up your game, eh? let's make it happen.
Canadian, I believe. Let's go to our Japanese character.
ゴルフは人生のショートです。Let's find your balance in golf and life.
Spanish audience.
El golf es como el flamenco. Let's add some Spanish passion to your swing.
For our Korean
골프는
friends.
과학입니다. Let's analyze your swing scientifically.
So here the example is there is literally we have AI playing partners. You choose and they become your friends, if you like, and you interact with them and they become the interaction between this content. So that's what I find about this content and why AI is so exciting is it gives it a personalization, an element of fun and engagement, which we just don't have by using search or by any other ways to get to that content today.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. I mean, it's very important to add the element of fun, because at the end of the day, a lot of the applications of AI in entertainment and specifically sports is to add some extra element to the fun that we are having playing these games. And interface is everything. Just think about ChatGPT adoption when it comes out of nowhere and people were like, this model is awesome, but I think the biggest driver for the adoption was actually the UI and UX, right? And we all know that it goes hand in hand with the technology. So I'm going to just ask one question about the interface. Like, how do you see this AI becoming the interface and helping to sort of drive more adoption of the technology in the sports?
Yeah, so and again, that goes back to what we were talking about before. The interface feels like everything. I mean, the technology behind it needs to enable the interface, which is the work that goes on behind the scenes to enable everything you just saw. The magic of it is, especially with ChatGPT, is it's incredibly simple, but the magic behind it is incredible. So we want to be able to build that interface that enables simplicity and then someone to go wow behind it. So for the vertical applications, which is I think the unique opportunity for consumer vertical applications, whether that's for us in sports, golf, horizontally across different sports, is what does that interface look like? So that's essentially what we're enabling in various different ways. If you're talking about sports media, for example, a simple scorecard, a box score should be clickable, and then you get that interface behind it. Now, the open text box that you saw there needs to be a feature as well. So you need to allow the human being to customize it and ask a very specific question. But again, you want to be able to sit between that simplicity of discovery. I think what we get right now, and we talk about this a lot, is voice. We have on golf.ai, you can talk to your playing partners. It's voice to voice. We see this across the advanced voice mode on ChatGPT. I think what's really interesting about the consumer applications and the actual front end is what we see is voice to voice being, we have this new technology and we apply what we know previously, which a lot of times is phone calls. And we see this very much in a lot of new companies that are building AI is essentially replacing your phone assistant and phone calls. But I think what we have the ability to do now, which is really exciting, I think, is voice lacks a little bit of context. And in terms of context, I mean visual. When you are showing, for example, in golf, if we want to build a voice agent that goes out and finds the most amazing travel experiences on the golf course, as a human being, I'm a visual human being, I would like to be able to see that. So as a voice to voice, it lacks a little bit of the context there. So what that eventually moves into is voice to whatever you want to call it, dynamic visuals, which essentially is video. So you start going to interactive video. Whether that's voice to voice into an interactive video, there's images that are popping up, there's buttons, and then that allows me to choose my own adventure. The voice agent gives me 2 buttons, I click one, and then the agent goes and finds that information. So, so I think there's so much to be able to be explored in terms of the front end of it, which is very exciting. And I think you made a very good point. I think we have a little bit of a responsibility, because I would like the internet to be this way, to make the internet fun. And I think language models allow this. So the work to be done is the back end to support the front end innovations, and then but I think there's some real magic to be found within those, especially in sports or any vertical.
Yeah, this is the competitive position between the investor and the person who's actually doing it. I'm just a great believer in voice. I honestly believe that voice is truly the best interface. So particularly in the sport, which, you know, my passion is golf. So I'm walking around a golf course. I don't want to visually see anything. I just want to talk. So literally I want to talk to my AI playing partner about the game of golf. So I'm on the first tee at my golf club, the Lakes. What's the shot? And it comes back and it says, Clive, you've got bunkers to the left, you've got water to the right, straight, which is probably always the case, right? Straight, 200 meters, but be careful with your hook, because it knows that my bad shot is the hook. And then literally I get to the ball, I've hit the first shot, it says it's 150 to the pin, and it just talks me through. And all the time I've got this interaction with voice that we've just never had before with machines. And it's so interesting that it's not a machine to me when I'm playing golf. He's my AI playing partner, but it's still a machine, right? So understand it's a machine you're interacting with, but we're making these machines fun, enjoyable, interactive, and around my passion of golf. That's like as an interface is so innovative and just changes everything. Instead of, particularly for the older golfer, putting on their glasses and having to look at their phone. You know, the interaction for particularly golf for the older generation, it's voice, I think, will be here for a long time, Peter. I think we're truly being so innovative with our voice technology. When it comes to travel and when it comes to buying equipment, we need to have interactive video, interactive content. But when we play the game of golf, you know, even when we interact around sports like football and baseball, I think voice will be dominant for many years to come.
That's a good point. I mean, I remember our experience in Dubai, right? I actually love these characters that they had their own sort of personality and the way that interacted, and they would remember you based on your previous interactions. I think my favorite was the Irish commentator. I would like to know which one is your favorite, Clive.
So I actually, because I like Ewan Porter. So Ewan Porter is this Aussie character, but he's actually a physical person. So out of the 10 characters we've developed one which is actually a person. Ewan is a very famous commentator in golf in Australia and actually across Asia. He allowed us to license his name and his character, and really we're exploring what that means. Because at this stage, we really don't know what it's like for someone to interact with Ewan's AI, which is not actually Ewan. And there's been a lot of discussion about this, you know, and people are saying about this is going to kill personalities, it's going to make them like, you know, take them into spaces they don't know. We don't know yet how this is going to evolve, but we do know that people have a connection with Ewan already. So Ewan brings his fan base with him. He brings his knowledge and experience in golf with him. So he's a trusted voice. So we're exploring with that. You know, this technology basically enables us to have hundreds and thousands of voices. So I could actually be playing golf and have Peter as my AI playing partner, even though it was like just a mate of mine, right? It may even be my own voice, but why would you have your own voice? I don't think that will work, you know, but I do think, you know, literally, there'll be thousands and thousands of voices. You can create your own voice. You can create your own playing partner. You can say, you know, in any language. So we launched in English, Japanese, and Korean, but we are going to have another 12 languages coming in the next few months. So you can interact in Spanish, and you can say, you know, you can get a golf rule in Spanish to a Spanish character who you actually like. Now, will the pros, the professional golfers, enable us to use their characters? I think they will. So, you know, obviously a mate of mine is Greg Norman. I've done some business with him in my metaverse world. You know, I could license Greg and use Greg's voice, for example. I could use Sergio Garcia as a Spanish golfer, John Rahm, all these other very famous golfers who people have a very big connection with, could be the voices of it. But I think it's early days in using real people. So we've created these artificial people. But let's see what happens. But Ewan's my favorite one. And I think we're going to have many different versions of Ewan.
That's great. I mean, I loved Yun as well. I'm really excited to see how people will react actually working and talking to a real person that has a history and background, and they have memories of that person. And as you know, like there are lots of research that shows that AI can be empathetic, can show emotion. It does not mean that in the core it does have emotions. That definitely it's not sort of like a biological entity like us, but it will be convincing enough for us to believe and perceive those emotions. So that's a big deal. And that's going to change everything. Like empathy and sort of emotional relationship goes a long way. And that I think is getting more and more mature, and it will create bonds with the sort of fans and people that are interacting with. But like again, stepping back a little bit, why do you think golf is one of the sports, or maybe the one, that is ready for AI adoption and having AI integrated?
Yeah. So our intentions is we're able to build these experiences across many different sports. We had to choose one to start just based on, you got to choose at one point. But golf, we want to very much focus on because it's one of the sports that people watch very passionately, but they also play it very passionately as well. And they invest time and they invest attention and they invest effort in their own actual, or especially in technology. So they use technology to be able to benefit their own game and to make improvements and actually elevate the experience. For various sports like football or soccer, I'm just lacing on my boots, kicking a ball with my friends. There's a little bit there that we can do around the connections and the connections and stories. But golf in particular, people use technology on the golf course. And for example, Clive made a great point, which was to be able to talk to your playing partner while you play. If you play soccer or football and you start talking to yourself on the pitch, maybe I don't know, maybe that's a use case that we can we can start building. And I think specifically we go to other sports and why other sports are interesting in terms of connections and stories, where obviously golf, we talked about, you can use the technology on the golf course, but we see a lot of let's talk about football or soccer again, a lot of technology around motion tracking. And a lot of the motion tracking is now coming into the amateur sports. So we are building various things to do this in golf, but if we have motion tracking, we can understand how you are playing in a specific game. And if we can understand how you're playing a specific game, even if with your friends or your mates, we can then build stories about that and we can share that with your friends or your mates. Or what we can do is we can also relate that experience to the professional game. And I think that's an interesting way that we can start building different applications, is relating your own performance and your own experience on a golf course and relating it to the professional game, which isn't possible now because a lot of the media and information out there is just about the professional game to the end user, where now we can put you into the experience. But I think specifically, a long-winded answer is people watch and play, and they invest time and effort into both through technology and golf mainly.
Millions and millions of data points. Golf has millions and millions of data points. So every golf course is unique. You know, the actual GPS location of it is unique. So we've mapped 50,000 golf courses. We know exactly where you are on the tee. We know all of the GPS coordinates as you walk around a golf course. Now times that by 50,000 by 18 holes, there's millions and millions of data sets. You look at the swing dynamics and how you hit a golf ball. There's millions of data points in terms of your face, your angle, your swing plane. So a lot of that technology has already been built in these apps. What we're going to do is interface into that technology to enable people to have a better user experience, make it easier, fun, and more enjoyable for golfers. And this whole thing you said before about, the connection of our AI playing partners, golfers are lonely. There's 100 million golfers. The majority of them are later on, so they're over 50, and they're just in this world where people are getting lonelier and lonelier. And an AI playing partner is a person you can have a conversation with. And it is a computer, but it is a person. It is a interaction, an experience which actually takes away some of that loneliness. So as stupid as this may sound, the other night I was in bed and I asked 𝐔𝐧𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐳𝐧 to tell me a golf story. And it actually gave me a story of an experience from Ewan Porter when he was playing. And it was just, I fell asleep. I fell asleep. And my mind actually went down a notch with technology. So I wasn't like scrolling and looking at stuff. I actually was going calmer and deeper into myself because this AI playing partner actually took me to a place of peace. And that's like really bizarre. So I'd say to anybody, if you ask something around the passion you have, an AI engine. If you're into golf, ask one of our playing partners to tell your story, see what happens. It's truly amazing. And then interact with that story and then literally let that take you along that journey. And this is just beginning. I mean, it truly is just beginning. So we've got it to the point where everything we do in 𝐔𝐧𝐥 is about golf because we want to keep that passion. But it's deep. It's like it takes you to places that you really like you've been, particularly as you get older, right? You've been to those golf courses, you've experienced that. So all these memories are flooding through this piece of technology. So golf is, I believe, the sport to start with because it's got so many data points and so many connections.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, especially about the story. I mean, I'm a soccer player, right? I played for my university and we had a championship anyways. So that's good. But I'm imagining like if we were using this to make a story about soccer, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I was just like too excited about like what's happening. And so I'm sure that golf is more of relaxing and nicer to listen to. But at the same time, I would like to know how you're making sure that the content and the sort of the interaction is engaging, but also accurate. How you're dealing with that? Because we know that LLMs are not the most trusted uncle.
So what's wrong with hallucinating a little bit? So let's have that conversation. So right now, AI hallucinates, okay? So it does. So we have these scenarios where you'll ask it a very factual question and it'll give you the wrong answer, okay? Now in sports, which is your passions, it sort of hallucinates, but it's not a bad thing, right? I'm like a great believer that we have just come to the world where we just believe it's boom, 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 boom. Well, life is not like that. And hallucinating from an LLM is actually a little bit of that. And I don't know. I mean, when you look in a business context, you're building a business plan, don't hallucinate, don't use that stuff. But when you're playing around with sports, it's actually pretty much fun, and this is what we've got to make it like change your thinking about this stuff. Sports is fun. It's my passion. It's what I want to do. It's, so a little bit of hallucination, which will get better and better, Steve. You know that already. These models are getting so good. The hallucinations are becoming less and less and less. They're becoming real time very, very quickly. So that stuff, I think, is a conversation we've had and we accept, but it's disappearing. But there's nothing wrong with it in sports. So my view is embrace it, have a giggle. When it tells you something which is just rubbish, have a giggle, because like life is a bit of a giggle, It's like when you talk to your mates on the golf course, they're making this shit up. So like, it's the same thing, So let's just have a giggle and let's enjoy this for fun and enjoyment. And the hallucination will disappear soon, but enjoy it while it's there.
So, and this is me and Clive's relationship. I'll give the bit more detailed answer.
That's good for me.
Yeah. And I agree with that because, and again, if you step back and you think about sports, there's data in sports. This team scored 2 goals. This team scored 3 goals. That is the truth. We want to get that right. But then there's how it happened is up for interpretation, right? So there is a little bit of that in sports where you go a hallucination in terms of a human being. You can consider human. I'm sure a lot of people consider sports commentators that they hallucinate a little bit as well. So we have to accept that. The technical answer of how we do that is we've built our own indexing and search capabilities. So I don't want to say the exact same to Perplexity because they have a massive team, but we've built that for sports for ourselves. So we do our own indexing, we do our own search capabilities through various, talk about agents and algorithmic search and hybrid search, all these things. Because if we talk about live information, and if you go on golf.ai and ask it about live information, it should be able to pull the correct information. And we do that very specifically, and it can scale very easily across different sports, which is the intention across different sports, to be able to do very specific searches for sports. And there's reasons why we index our own information and make our own information. Of course, you could just use Google and make an API call to Google, but the reason we don't do that specifically is because there's just various applications in sports that we want to make very specific to be able to search, right? You can search across 4 different players, where if you sent that to Google, it'd be difficult, but if you sent that to golf.ai, we'll search information about those 4 different players independently, bring it all back and do the search that way. So we need to understand that balance between what is a hallucination in sports. The score shouldn't be hallucinated, but the opinions and the story behind it is, let's call it, up for interpretation and up to the end user. And maybe that's a bit of the personalization of where does that information come from, right? You could get down to the long path from now is, where are you sourcing that information? Do you, like human beings now, listen to a specific podcaster or media company that they are telling a specific story? Maybe through various integrations in AI, you have a very specific data set that you're interacting with and hearing that story and hearing that point of view. So there's a lot of considerations around it. But again, we have to understand in sports, the some information is up for interpretation, which is fun.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. I mean, as you mentioned, Perplexity, and I collaborated with them very closely. I know they're doing amazing. There are lots of great sort of technology out there that are helping with RAGs and other ways to make sure that certain data points will be reflected exactly as it is. And you know, as you mentioned, it specifically, there are lots of commentary around how things happen and the different views of how the sort of the events sort of came to the sort of conclusion. So that's fine, and that makes it exciting. That's why you have different commentators, and they all have different flavors, and some of them might be more exciting than the others because of the way that they interpret things, and that's fine. But so I would like to know more about golf.ai. You're getting a lot of questions, so I have my laptop here. It's sometimes I'll have a look at the sort of the comments, and I can see there are lots of comments coming, and I'll try to ask as much as possible. But some of them are related to, first of all, is it available? What are the pricing? And also how and what are the features that are fun? We talked about the commentators, but what are the other features? You talked about the mapping of all these golf courses. Like, we would like to hear more about the app.
Sure. So we launched it a week ago. So it's version 1.0. So, you know, I'm a tech investor, tech entrepreneur, so I understand it's version 1.0. But we have to start, and what we started with is literally the history of where we came from. So a year ago, Peter started working on solving this problem about golf rules. So golf rules is a very interesting problem. You know, the rules were literally a few guys in Scotland got together and made some rules up around a game of golf 150 years ago. And that's how golf rules have evolved. It's nuanced, it's incredibly subjective. It's a rule book about that thick. It has 21 different rules. You interpret them. So what we've done is we developed a data set with who would classify as being a golf rules guru. We did it in partnership with him, and we built that, and we've been testing that with a number of golf associations around the world. So we launched it a week ago publicly, but we've been testing it with golf associations now for the last 6 months. And basically, go to golf.ai, sign up, and ask it a rules question. And it will literally answer the rules question in English, in Japanese, in Korean, and in other languages going forward, giving you the rule citing. And we're at about, if it's generic rules questions, we're about 95% accuracy. If it's very nuanced, and when I say nuanced, it means like a golf official who's a certified golf official from the R&A, and there's 2,000 of them around the world. They ask it questions, and I think we're about 70% correct with those. ChatGPT right now is about 55%. So we've got a data set which is ahead of ChatGPT, and it just answers the question incredibly easy. So I'm playing with a few mates on a golf course. You take it out and you ask it a question. You know, I'm in the trees. I'm next to a red stake. What does that mean? I'm in the bunker. What do I do? You know, I've just kicked my ball. What's the penalty? A bird has just picked up my ball. What do I do? Is there a penalty? How do I replay that situation? Less than 10% of golfers know golf rules. So we are the #1 AI assistant for golf rules right now in terms of accuracy. Go to golf.ai and play with golf rules on the golf course. Ask it questions, and you'll be just amazed at how this can help your game. The idea, again, make it easier, simple, fun to use. That's what this whole golf rules AI assistant's about. So that's what we built it for. Initially, that's the launch. But we've been doing a lot of creative stuff in media. So Peter, maybe you can talk a little bit about our media discovery, which is live today for people to use.
Yeah. So very similar to what we were talking about there as well. We've built a search engine, essentially similar to Perplexity, but just golf. If you ask it about the world's current news, it won't know that. And that's the benefit. We can just go very specifically to golf. So the Discover engine right now is essentially the open text box, which we talked about. And you can use the voice to voice. So we've built our own voice to voice. You ask it a question. We'll do some rather complicated agentic search, I'll call it, and we'll pull back information. Within that, you can search current media, news, data about the professional game, and what we're now building. There's some Easter eggs within the application that if you actually are on a golf course, it'll provide information about the golf course as well, if your location is enabled. What that is then enabling, of course, is the on-course experience. So we talked about adapting the user experience. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll release our first essentially on-course experience where you don't have to type in the question. The user experience is a little bit easier with just essentially pressing a button or talking to your partner through voice to voice, asking a golf rules, and doing specific applications like that. Obviously, the benefit is if you're on the golf course and you have a golf rule question, we can provide the answer and also provide information about where you are and what strategy you might want to use and how you've been doing. So essentially, we're building out these very specific flows that's why we wanted to position it as your partner, because it essentially is how you would experience golf with a partner or golfing partner, right? So the on-course experience is coming, but for now it's text in, text out, or voice, or you saw in the demo, if you do text in, text out, you can obviously play the audio as well.
So the vision is interesting. So what as an investor, my vision for this and the vision that Peter is really building is very exciting. So the vision is it's just going to do everything. And I say this as an investor because I truly believe this, because literally in golf, there's about 300 software applications. We're going to interface into as many as possible to enable them for AI. So for example, there's probably 50 software partners who build what we call golf booking engines. So 100 million golfers play, around the world. They go online to make their booking for a tee time. Literally through golf.ai, you'll be able to do that by just asking for a tee time. So I want to play, where's the nearest course? I want to play tomorrow with 4 people. Give me a booking time. We go at the back end, we interface into all these booking agents. We find you those tee times. I'm going to New Zealand. I'm going to play with a few mates in Queenstown. Give me some courses. Give me some options. It's October. I'm going to go probably March 2025. It'll come back and it'll tell you on March the 4th, here are the booking times you can book. Here are the flights to get to Queenstown. Here are the hotels to get to Queenstown. Would you like to go ahead and book? So that's the travel market. And this is why I'm excited as an investor. The travel market just for golf is a $20 billion market. We're going to produce a golf travel AI assistant to enable that you to be able to do that in a fun and easy way. That's exactly what we're all about, fun and easy way. So we make things simple and easy. We don't build travel stuff. We build an API to integrate into existing travels. And that's the key. This is what I love about as a tech investor in AI. you're not building any of this stuff at the front end. That's done with this amazing technology, which is being built by the big guys. But there's so much opportunity for vertical players like ourselves to use that AI technology to integrate into vertical applications. So travel is huge. Selecting your golf clubs is a big challenge. And, you know, Callaway's, Titleist, TaylorMade, they spend millions of dollars trying to promote that an idea. But with us, we'll know what is your best club because we know your history on the golf course. And we'll say to you, when was the last time you bought your last golf club? Well, actually, it was 3 years ago, you know, and we know since then you've improved a lot. And these are the clubs which will suit for you. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of, we call it agents now, right? You had a great article the other day talking about how agents in the next 2 years will replace the way we do things today, the way our computers interact, you know, like touching the keyboards. Well, agents will go out and find stuff for you. So we'll develop agents inside Golf.ai for travel. We'll develop agents inside Golf.ai for equipment purchases. Then the back end of this is that 50,000 golf courses have all these members, where these members right now telephone their golf club to know about their accounts. They telephone to make a booking, right? Some of them have online experiences, but not many. So all of that is going to be replaced by AI agents, which on behalf of the golf course can do your bookings, can look at your membership information, can tell you that you've spent, you know, $400 last month and you need to pay that bill. So it's going to be incredible. And I use this context of everything because AI agents and the AI interface will be everything in 2 to 5 years' time.
I totally agree. And as you mentioned about agents, I'm also excited about how they would enable us to do things like literally yesterday, Anthropic announced their agentic AI sort of capability that is allowing Claude to have access to your computer, you know, doing things on your behalf, maybe accessing your keyboard and mouse and interacting with other applications, which is very interesting and going to change the gameplay. And as you mentioned, like there are lots of ways that companies are thinking about how to sell things, but what these agents can do can enable the users to find the best product. So now it's a paradigm shift. We're going to help the buyers rather than the sellers. So that's very exciting. I loved it. I would like to talk for hours and hours about AI and sports. Both of them my favorite topics, but what are the last thoughts you would like to share with our audience?
I think, well, especially where we're going with Golf.ai and the intention to go across different sports. I think I'm very excited about the interface and the application layer. We talk about agents, but essentially agents are just software that enable us to do something. The end user, often golfers that are maybe of an older generation, don't care about AI agents, but they want an incredible experience, and we can enable that incredible experience through AI agents. So I think for us, it's a major focus on the user experience and then using that technology to enable that. Something I'm very excited about, and I think something that a lot of AI people get very fixated on agents and agents being everything, but we need to be able to think about the user experience, especially on the consumer side of what do consumers want, what's the problem that we're solving, and essentially go out and bridge that gap between whatever this problem is and the solution. So that's our major focus. And I mean, we're incredibly excited about where we can go with Golf.ai and into other sports, and to hopefully change the way people interact with sports and to make the all experiences or everything very magical. I think we have a lot of fun opportunities to do that.
So I've got 2 asks for people. So this is LinkedIn. So if you're an investor, come join me. I'm the principal investor behind Golf.ai. We had this amazing vision. This will be everything. Believe me, it will be everything. If you're interested in investing, just email me, Clive@golf.ai. We also want users. So Peter@golf.ai. Let's talk about what we can build for our user base. So we want more and more users. So if you're into AI, you're into golf, start using it and give us some feedback. This is the way we iterate, we make it better and better and better. So really, investors, email me. Users, go to Golf.ai and start using it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for all of you watching this, we thank you for tuning in wherever you are tuning in from. We had an awesome discussion about the AI application in one of the domains. We're going to come back with some more very soon. Looking forward to have you again. Thank you.
Thank you.